Hello crafty friends, welcome to another card making video. And the idea for today's video was simply to start by making a heart shape using ink and heat embossing. I wanted something with a defined edge but a grungy look. So I took some wide masking tape. This is mint tape from scrapbook.com. And I stuck it on a bit of leftover release paper from some double-sided sticky. And I did that because I wanted to die cut from the tape, but I didn't want the tape to stick to my cutting plates. So I took a heart-shaped die and I die cut from the masking tape release paper combo. I removed the masking tape from the release paper and then put the tape onto a panel of smooth white card. I then took a grungy dotty stamp, inked it up with embossing ink, and then pressed my card panel down onto it and rubbed over the back to make sure that exposed area of card, the heart shape, got enough ink on it. Next, I sprinkled on some superfine clear gloss embossing powder, brushed off the excess with a dry paintbrush, and heated it with my heat tool to melt the embossing powder. Once it had cooled and set, I used a blending brush to add a layer of picked raspberry distress oxide onto my heart area. I also added some seedless preserves to deepen the colour a little bit. When I was happy with that, I gave it a spritz with water and then smushed around on top of it with my smusher to just let the colours blend and mix and mingle. I dried that with my hairdryer and then I smushed some picked raspberry on my mat, hydrated it with water, picked up the colour with my smusher and then smushed it down. I dried it again and did the same thing with seedless preserves, and that left me with a lovely grungy, splotchy, pinky heart. I made sure it was really dry with my hairdryer, then I buffed over it with a microfiber cloth to get the ink off of the embossing. And once I was happy with that, I removed the mask and was left with a lovely heart. It was exactly what I wanted. So while I was thinking about what to do next, I stuck the masking paper heart on another panel of smooth white card. I then stamped over it with the same grungy dotty stamp and embossing ink. I added clear embossing powder again and melted it with my heat tool. And once that had cooled and set, I used the leftover picked raspberry, seedless preserve, smushy inks and smushed them all over the heart. I did add a little bit extra as well. I dried that off camera and then I blended some ink around the heart to make sure it had a really nice defined edge. I then buffed over it with a bit of paper towel that I had to hand to remove the ink from the embossing, and I took the masking paper heart off and that left me with a pink splotchy grungy outside and a white clean crisp heart inside. And here are the works in progress so far. Right, back to the first card. I decided to turn my heart into a balloon. So I added a little knot at the bottom using the picked raspberry and seedless preserves and my ink correction pen. I then placed the panel in my stamp platform, holding it down with some washi, and I stamped on a little critter. Now, I'm not normally a critter person when it comes to cards, but occasionally it is called for. So I found this duck stamp or goose stamp, I think it's a duck, in my stash, and I stamped it in Stays On ink, which is quick drying and waterproof. And I stamped that beneath the heart and used a pen to create a little string for the ducky to hold. So it looks like the ducky is being lifted into the air by the balloon. The panel of cardstock that I'd done all this work on was quite narrow, so it was going to give me two empty bands down either side when I stuck it on a card blank, and I thought it'd be fun to add a bit of colour instead of just having them white. So I blended on some picked raspberry, and because my card blank is linen textured, I thought I would drag some seedless preserves over that and allow it to highlight, or low light because it's darker I suppose, the linen texture. To stick my panel on my card blank, I used double-sided tape, and to get the top of the panel and the top of the card lined up, I butted both up against the lip on this scoreboard. And then I went back to working on the other card. I did decide to cut that panel down so that it was sort of rectangular, almost square. And I added some of the seedless preserves around the edge to give it some darkness to create a vignette around the edge. I mounted the panel on some more smooth white card and used my guillotine to create a small white border all the way around. I did snip off the white border on the right hand side though, because I decided to butt the pink edge right up against the right hand side of the card, as you can see me doing here. And on this card I stamped another ducky and fussy cut it out. To make it look die cut though, to neaten up its edges, I ran around them with my embossing tool and popped some 1mm deep foam tape on the back. For my sentiments for both cards, I decided to add a with love, which obviously goes well with hearts. For the white heart, I stamped the sentiment directly onto the heart itself because obviously it would stand out really well on there. But for the other one, the pink heart, I stamped it onto some white card, which I then cut out and glued onto the heart. Once I'd added the ducky onto the second card, I then punched out a load of teeny tiny hearts from some scraps of gold foil cardstock and added dots of matte gel medium around the hearts and used my jewel picker upper to pick up the hearts and stick them on. I just felt I needed a bit of bling and a bit of shimmer and shine. And for a finishing touch, I decided to give my ducky a little bit of colour. So I used a yellow fine liner to colour in his beak and his feet, and I gave him a little pink dot on his cheek. And I did that on both cards. I didn't feel I needed to do any more colouring than that because there's plenty going on already. And that's these two cards finished. I do hope you like the cards. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you've gleaned a few ideas. If you have, please do let me know in the comments. Leave a thumbs up, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and I'll see you back here very soon for another video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.